I've been asked to talk about why a high-performance culture, what does it look like and day to day? Well, I really believe in this concept of when we're very young, we get into a mode of crisis. And that crisis usually occurs when we're alone without our parents and we move into a time when we have to get out of it. And we usually succeed by getting out by being humorous, by being mean, by being snippy, by being quiet, underhanded. There's probably about 15 different ways that people develop what I call a winning formula in a crisis. So I think to have a great culture that maintains itself in a company, people have to really look back and understand when they were in there as a child and where that crisis did occur and what their winning formula is, and then to know that they have choice to be different. So in other words, when in a business setting, when a crisis occurs, then everyone kind of knows the way that they would normally operate and also know they have choice to be different. Now, how that continues to come from the top is that myself, I'm open and undefended about all my feelings, about all my failures, and I look at them as learning experiences, but I'm also very clear on what my winning formula is. What are specific tools for communicating within a company day after day, and what makes it work? I really believe, of course, in integrity, as everyone does. But integrity is defined, and it can be defined a bunch of different ways, but because I find inside of a company, everyone has a different definition of integrity, there is no integrity. So for me, integrity is doing what I say I will do, when I say I will do it by, in the expected way. And if I mess up, then I have to go back and fix whatever mess I made by being out of integrity, which actually has me be even more in integrity. Now, but what is integrity in communication? I say there is no communication business without a buy-win and conditions of satisfaction. So what I find people often do is there'll be a project and then say, okay, well, I'll get that done and I'll get back to you. That's the lowest form of communication in business. And what it really does, and what's really interesting, when people aren't willing to give conditions of satisfaction or a firm buy-win date, what they're really doing is they're not being responsible. And also what they want to do when it doesn't meet the expectations of the other person, because there is no real date or conditions of satisfaction, then they get to be right about it. And people love to be right. What's critical then is that at the end of every conversation, what are the conditions for satisfaction and what is the buy-win date? For example, I will arrange 3 trips for you to Europe for 7 days each, 2 days in Budapest, 2 in London, and two in Paris, and leave 1 day for travel. And I need that done by May 15th at noon. Now, what's really great about conditions of satisfaction and a buy-win date is then the computer and the brain can do something with it. The brain can do nothing with a command that is vague for conditions of satisfaction or a buy-win date. Lululemon grew without traditional advertising 100% because I had no money. Now, in a time of the need for something, creativity comes to the forefront, and I always believe the best creativity actually comes from having no money. Now, because we didn't have money to sponsor athletes, then I had to figure out this community model where instead of having a pro snowboarder on a mountain, I would actually get 6 community snowboarders that were usually younger that weren't quite yet pro. And I found them and our relationship with them to be spectacular because I got a lot of technical feedback on our designs, but I also saw that they had full ownership of the company and went out in the community and talked well about us. I really believe in word-of-mouth marketing. I was in a very unique position at the time because I was redefining business and going direct to consumer. If you were to look at today's market, that would be saying, well, you're going to go directly D2C using only e-commerce. But in 1998, that meant D2C meant opening up your own retail stores. Now, because we opened up our own retail stores, it created a different type of, I'd say, line item for advertising. So rather than thinking of buying traditional media, I had to determine what I was going to do with and how I was going to budget for the community, as I've just talked about, getting a better location so meaning that the location of the store I would pay more money for in order to create more volume in the store, but also set the image for the store, which is part of branding. I also looked at people development, which I was very big on. So I would spend a couple $1,000s a person when they came into the company. I didn't even know if they were going to be good or not, but I was determined to work with great people. And I had a development program that really, I think in 2 weeks, someone could decide whether they want to be good in life or great in life. And so those are three big buckets of branding that I don't think other companies look at or really understand. In this digital age, what should people know about word of mouth marketing? Well, I think it was in 1995, and I do not know what book I read it in, or maybe it was just in the newspaper, but there was a statistic saying something like, when people hear about a brand by word of mouth through a friend or someone they trust, they're 6 times more more able or desire to go into the store and actually buy a product, and not just buy one product, but buy 2 products, and not just wait 6 months to go in the store, but do it in a week. So you can imagine when this kind of word of mouth marketing occurs, how fast a store can get up and going if you give the customers the right to give them a story in order to do word of mouth marketing. My personal belief, because marketing is so hard to monitor, that marketing is no good unless people go to coffee and talk about it. So when we would do design meetings where we would have customers come in 4 times a year, and we would have a series of questions for them, and of course we'd give them sushi and we'd give them $100 gift certificate. But the types of questions we asked really had them be part of the company, part of the growth of the company, part of where the company was going. And so when people have that ownership of it like that, they go to coffee and they talk about it. If I did do traditional media, I'd do it because I was in the Yoga Journal magazine and I knew I could control the first and second inside pages of it, which is really important because I don't think people read much beyond that. The type of marketing I would do is for instance, when Nike got nailed for child labor, and I knew that was a real problem because social media was coming on, and one person could accuse a major international company of something, true or not true, but the perception of it was true. So then we'd do an ad where we were all in the factory with our diapers and our soothers and our little hats, and at the sewing machines doing, sewing garments together. And then our caption was, we believe in child labor. So it's kind of like we did a lot of tongue-in-cheek in that, but because of that type of ad, then people would, again, go to coffee and talk about it. If I had one mantra, or let's call it maybe even piece of advice to give to new founders or people that are growing new companies, I think it's really important to understand that you are an individual beyond an individual. You're the only one that's got your genetics from your mother and father with certain aptitudes. You're the only one that's had your environmental upbringing, and you probably have specific aptitudes which you've gravitated to all your life. And probably whatever you're in is something that you love and what you think about 24/7 because it's absolutely fun. You've got to understand that you're so unique that other competitors in the marketplace will not be like you. They will have a different point of view and they might come at it differently, but my advice to you is not to look at competition when you're growing. Get your head down, do the right thing, produce quality product, treat your people right, and your company will develop into exactly what you want it to be. Have good fun at the Centurion Conference, and I hope to see you all someday. Thank you. Bye-bye.